That's a very lovely view you have in the background there.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm on the 16th floor. This is Los Angeles behind me.
Oh, awesome.
That's what you see.
Yeah, it looks beautifully sunny in LA as always.
Where are you, my friend? Australia?
No, I'm actually in Hamburg, Germany. I've been here 10 years, so yeah, I'm
Wow.
Australian, but have lived here 10 years, and it's the tail end of summer, so it's not quite like what you have there.
I was in Hamburg once. In my past lifetime, I was in the fashion business for 3 decades. I worked for luxury brands, and I came to Hamburg to meet with Jill Sander. I mean, we're talking the 90s.
Yeah, there's a huge fashion industry here.
Well, at that time, it was only Jill. And
Okay.
she was an extraordinary woman. She still is, I'm sure. The brand isn't what it used to be, but that's what I remember of Hamburg.
Has coaching and helping others something that's always been natural to you? Have you felt like it was always a natural calling for you from a young age?
Helping others, yes. Coaching, no. This is a second career for me. I've been coaching for about a decade now, and I help people actually now who are closing one chapter of their lives and want to open another one professionally and personally. Because I've done it myself, it's easier for me to help them. Helping others, I think when you are a person that has a heart of service and really loves service, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You will bring that into your work. But to actually do it in a way that is systematic and transforms lives, that's been the last decade as a professional coach.
Oh, awesome. I really there was something I read in your bio there that resonated with me, and that was creating connections as opposed to like the standard types of networking. As a creative and so on, I've been to many networking events and so on. I've always found them kind of tricky to navigate. I've always been much more focused on trying to create more personal relationships, and seeing that as potentially more of an opportunity than the standard type of networking thing. I really like that you kind of take that approach.
Daniel, my wish for you is that you never go to another networking event as long as you live. Truly.
I get it. No, I get it. I kind of come to that myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm here to tell you it's not even necessary.
Mm.
If you want to build a business, we're sort of sold this idea that um, you have to go to networking events, you have to be on social media, you have to, create content constantly. I am on social media and I create content consistently, but it's in addition to building my business. So I have built my business literally one relationship at a time. Now, I admit it was easier to build this second career given that I had 30 years of building relationships. And coaching, more than any other business, is built on the foundation of trust. So having a relationship with people where they have seen you, they have experienced you as a human being, and they trust you went a long way for me in building the second career. Also, it depends on what your markers of success are. For me, the marker of success for this career, but even before that, it was never like more people, more likes, more followers. It was it was about going deep rather than wide. And I know for a fact that when we go deep with people, that it increases the value of our work, but it also increases our prosperity, the prosperity of our business. People are willing to pay a lot more to to have depth in their experience with you than to sort of dance on the surface.
Very much so. Um, yeah, I actually don't like the word content these days so much because for me personally, I feel it undermines the artistic process. But what you're saying resonates because like social media being more of a signpost than the actual place where the stuff goes down. It should, if it could be a signpost to what you're really doing, which is, as you're saying, creating true, deep, authentic connections with people. That's awesome, but it is merely a signpost.
Well, how are you challenged by that word at this time in your life, in your business?
It's to me it feels like the mass production of things. I'm very much focused on writing and filmmaking and telling stories that inspire and help people. That's my overarching thing. And when people are like, oh, you have potential to be a content creator, I'm not interested in a whole lot of massive amounts of production. I'm interested in stories that matter, and creating these connections with people. And this podcast is storytelling as well. So that's my issue with content. Yeah.
I get that. I get that. The ironic thing is, if you focus on one person and if you do it really, really well, it trickles down.
Mm.
I think most people think that it's about touching more and more people, a little bit. I think it's about touching few people deeply. And if you do that deeply enough, that work will go out into the world. People will speak about it. It will have its own momentum. All my clients now come to me through referrals, every single one. And that's because I have focused on one client at a time. And over time, now you have people that go out there and say good things about you and about your work.
Yeah, for sure. The principles that you go by, the sort of core principles, there's quite a few of them, which is pretty cool. One you've referred to is it's basically it's in line with what we're talking about. The four principles of quitting: hustle. Hustle is it's another term actually that I could go off a little bit, but I used to get like Sunday depression when I was in jobs I didn't like. And I very much disliked this Sunday depression. I was like furious with it. I was like, I want to wake up on a Monday and be amped for what I'm doing for the week. I don't want to have this Sunday depression. It shouldn't exist. And I've worked very hard to get to a place where I don't have that anymore. I'm excited to get into the week. And this term hustle. Another one I thought of today was like hump day. People call Wednesday hump day. I understand, even if it's something that you love doing and it's aligned, it's really aligned, there's still struggle in it. But this idea that Wednesday is a mountain you have to climb to get through the week. Some of this terminology I think is a little bit flawed, and I think the term hustle is an interesting one. So what are your principles around that?
Well, how did you make that switch? Because you were clearly somebody that was, with the Sunday blues, you were clearly somebody that was getting through the week rather than experiencing. You were like getting through it,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how did you make that switch?
My various left and rights to get to a place of clarity sound similar to yours in a way, in terms of different industries, different experience, just life experience through the years. But for me, it was a process of really just getting to a place of clarity with my true self, my work, and having a faith in that after many failures and trial and error and falling on my face. And I actually took a complete left turn from the corporate industry and became a musician, and moved to London and ended up in Germany with a family. So
Oh, wow.
the toxic I was in architecture. I'm conscious of not focusing too much on my story.
Okay.
I'd like to.
I'm so curious. I'm just so curious. I want to know who I'm speaking to because
Yeah.
it makes a difference. But I don't mean to, yes, turn the camera on you.
No, I really appreciate it. I'm just conscious of when people listen to podcasts and the hosts are just talking about themselves. You know.
I hear you. I hear you. But the thing is, it's so interesting, right? Because we're talking about, and I'm happy to answer your question. We're talking about the hustle, but you were in the hustle. So you have the answer inside
Yeah.
you, and I'm curious to hear because a person doesn't just do what you did. Doesn't just make that turn. There was a process. Either you went through a really difficult time, or you got some serious coaching, or you met someone that who inspired you, and you really like modeled what you were seeing, and you changed your life. But back to your question, because I want to respect your wish to
Oh
bring me.
no, I'm more than happy. I think it's awesome to share. I think it's awesome to
I'd love to hear it. Yes.
yeah, yeah. I basically crashed and burned, right? So I was keeping myself extraordinarily busy as a way to avoid dealing with the hard stuff that I needed to. And that looked like playing in bands at night, studying university full time, working in a corporate job, being very excessive on weekends until I literally crashed and burned and started having crippling anxiety. And I had turned my back on my instrument, which was drumming, and I realized how important, in terms of self-expression, drumming was to me. So I reconnected to that and then formed another band, and very quickly we decided to leave everything behind and take that to the UK and become full-time musicians. And the ego part of me had these grand dreams of rock stardom. And of course, the journey showed me something completely different, which was so much more valuable. And that's how I took that dramatic turn, which ultimately put me on a more aligned path. Yeah.
So that takes a lot of courage. A lot of people crash and burn the way you did, but they don't rise from it stronger. They don't become more resilient. They don't open up and really take ownership of their lives. And you did that, and that takes a lot of courage. You use the word clarity. I find in my work, people come to coaching for two things more than anything else. One is clarity, and the other one is confidence. And it's hard for me to tell them what my truth is around that from my experience, which is clarity is only seen in the rearview mirror. So you're telling me today you had clarity, but I bet you that you have clarity now looking back, that while you were going through it, you were most of the time just putting one foot in front of the other and hoping and praying and doing the work and moving forward. And that takes courage. And then the second thing people want is confidence. And that too is not something I can give them, like clarity. Confidence is a result. It comes from doing the thing and coming out the other side, and now you have confidence. So I can teach you how to pretend you have confidence, how to perform confidence, but real confidence is a result. It comes from taking action. What does action take? Courage. So you had the one prerequisite for growth and expansion, which wasn't clarity or confidence, it was courage. And I want to congratulate you for that. It's gotten you to where
Thank
you
you.
are today.
Yeah, I thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I agree with you. It took a serious amount of courage, particularly as I'd never felt that the anxiety was so visceral, and I'd never suffered it, and it was so visceral that I went from being like very, very kind of popular and seen as being very outgoing, to not being sure whether I was going to be able to like step out of my apartment.
Yeah.
And within a relatively short amount of time, I turned that around to then performing every night on stages. And but the irony of that, and as you say, the hindsight is a beautiful thing. There wasn't a lot of clarity at the time. I was, as you say, just trying to do the work and move forward. And but yeah, the irony was there were certain situations, and I've said this before, where if you're sitting in a meeting with a couple of people, you wouldn't think that's anxiety provoking. If you're on a stage in front of 300 people, you'd think that's anxiety provoking. I was anxious in the meeting, and I wasn't anxious on the stage because it was a healthier form of creative expression.
Yes.
So the irony of like the circumstances relative to like me trying to express myself is interesting too. But yeah, that hindsight is, you're absolutely right. And I love that focus on courage as opposed to the other stuff.
And regarding the hustle, a couple of things come to mind. One is, so many of us are raised to believe that if it's not hard, it's not worthy. If it's not a struggle, we're doing something wrong. That it has to feel like a struggle. Life has to feel like a struggle. We grow up hearing, when it comes to money doesn't grow on trees. And look, it's not that I'm against hard work. I work very hard, and that's a given if we want to be successful. But struggle is something else entirely. Life doesn't need to be a struggle. I'm sure you're working more hours. You're working hard now doing what you're doing, but it doesn't feel like a struggle. And that's a mindset shift. That's the true value of good coaching. It's not in teaching our clients strategies and tactics, which every good coach can do. It's one level higher, helping them shift their mindset, catching these beliefs that are nesting in the back of their head and are the actual driver of our actions. So you, from the life you just explained to me, which, I mean, it was exhausting just to listen to the kind of day or week you were having. Because I was going to ask you, like, wait, all at the same time? At the same time you were doing this and this and this? And I realized, oh yeah, he's talking about one period of time in his life. There was a belief there, and I don't know where it came from, where you saw it modeled, that to be successful, that is how you have to do it. You have to hustle. You have to struggle. It needs to be really difficult. And that's just untrue.
Absolutely. And it's so awesome and a little strange. It feels a little strange when you're, like you're saying, that resistance is so much less, but the work has more of an easiness to it. It's a really awesome thing when you get to that place.
Yes. So I'm not looking to not work hard. I'm looking to make things effortless. And there is a distinction there. There's a great book. I think it's called Effortless. And it's all about this. And how we can create lives that are effortless. And that doesn't mean we're lazy or we're sitting on the couch watching Netflix all day long. But there is a skill to making our lives effortless. And that's tied into the second concept that came to my mind when you were talking about the hustle. Most people are on Chronos time, what in the old times the Greeks called Chronos, which is really what clock time. 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, it's Monday, it's Wednesday, it's Sunday. When you start to integrate your life, to live a more integrated life, which doesn't mean a more balanced life, okay, but more integrated as in you are doing the things that work for your operating system, with your work, with where you live, with your family, with your health, with your fun and enjoyment. They kind of bleed into each other. So here I have my home office. You're in Hamburg. I'm in LA. We're on Zoom. We're connecting. Versus 3 decades of my life where my whole worth and value was decided by the space, the literal space that I was in. If I wasn't in the office or a store, I wouldn't get paid. I wouldn't be able to make a living. So when we switch, when we little by little make our lives such that all the pieces are more integrated, feeling more effortless, we move into Kairos time. My children make fun of me because they're like, oh, she's in Kairos time. But this was a real thing for the Greek. They were, Kairos time is this sense of flow, when you're in flow. Again, doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean you're not working. It just means your concept of time, whether it's the day or the week, shifts. So you're moving, you're flowing along a river. There's no more hump days. There's no more, I have to wait for the weekend and then, then I'll be an athlete. And then on Monday, I have to put on this outfit again and be yet another person. It's a result of living a more integrated life, which is also a big part of coaching and, what people really are yearning for. They call it balance, but really, if you're passionate about what you do, you're never going to have balance. I mean, there's going to be days that you're fully with your family. There's going to be days that you're fully at work. You can't just divide it into perfectly balanced days.
No, the integration, it's a great way to describe it. It really does have a knock-on effect. Like even just taking the time for well-being or the gym or whatever, really knocks on to then focus after, as opposed to sitting at a desk and just being there for the sake of that time. I just think that 9 to 5 model, having experienced it, as I'm sure you have too, is a very flawed model in terms of human, how we are as humans.
I agree. I hope that it's changing some. I know we're in a time of flux, and what COVID did, especially for young people, was kind of, bring in this idea. I mean, I've been on Zoom for 7-8 years, but bringing this idea that you don't have to be in a particular space to do the work. Unfortunately, a lot of young people, they don't have the skills to actually do the work remote. It takes skill, and it takes discipline, and it takes focus. You can't just show up at, most of the 21-year-olds are not just showing up and being able to do that. When they're at home, they get distracted, they have notifications on, they're not doing the work. So the organizations are pulling them back and saying, what I'm seeing, because I coach a lot of leaders, is they're saying, no, you need to be in the office. And then there's pushback from the young adults, and so they're like, okay, 3 days at the office, 2 days at home, but there's a lot of friction there now.
Yeah, how much do you encourage instinct and intuition in your work? Do you?
Oh, hugely, and I model it right off the bat. So if I'm feeling something, I will say it to my client, and I will say, my gut tells me. So right off the bat, they are seeing a different model of leadership. Somebody who's willing to immediately talk about intuition, about the gut. I'll ask them what's going on in their body. I always will start the session off with a few minutes of grounding and breathing and having them go into their body. So it's a huge part of my work. I know there's a lot of coaches that bring it in very strongly into their work. For me, it's always there, but it's not it's not the main thing. But I talk about 3-way intelligence, and I let my clients know that they need to bring the intelligence of their mind, the intelligence of their heart, and the intelligence of their gut to our work together. Or else the solutions that we come up with are going to be limited. We're leaving so much on the table that we don't even know we're leaving on the table.
I think that's a courageous approach. Talking about courage, I think it actually takes courage to speak the truth about that instinct. You know, it's so easy to kind of like have some fear in, like, you know, you feel that but you don't express it. So back on the courage thing, I think that takes courage in itself.
I agree with you, and believe me, it's a work in progress for me because I wasn't raised like that. You know, I'm 58 years old. I was raised at a time where you did not express emotions, you did not talk about intuition, you did not ask, like, what does your heart say, what does your gut say? You know, you were looked at as, you know, like a soft leader, and then as a coach as well. Now, much of my work is with young adults, but, you know, executive coaching has been the basis of my work, and most of the years of my work have been in that. You know, it's a little scary. I would be like, if I ask this leader to go in their body and tell me what their gut says, are they gonna like think that, oh, coaching, you know, it's like woo woo, you know? But Daniel, I could not have been more wrong. People are hungry. People are hungry. So I have to do the work myself. And I have coaches that I do this work with so that I can open up my heart. I can become better at hearing my intuition. And then I can take that more and more into my work. But never have I been sorry for going there. Every time I have been incredibly pleasantly surprised at how open people are when you take them to that place. Even, you know, a 75-year-old man will go there and then will thank you and just feel like, oh, wow, that was valuable.
And again, it contradicts the kind of standard business type stuff. I actually like really worked hard actually through martial arts to train the instinct almost like a muscle. And I carried that into decisions in my life, and like you say, it's always just kind of proven itself over and over again.
What kind of
So
martial arts?
I did a ninjutsu, so traditional Japanese stuff, but in a very modern way. And I had an amazing teacher, Sean Genders in Australia. He's just a very unique man and teacher, and it was a very intimate training for a number of years. It was just me and a close friend and I, and so we were really able to hone in on this call it more modern approach, which involved instincts and stuff. But he used to watch us and be able to tell where we were at each week. You know, he'd see it in our bodies and the way we were moving around. He'd be very perceptive of where we were at each week, and we'd adjust accordingly to that. So it was just a very special and unique time for me, and I took lessons from that very much into life, and it's guided many of my decisions, particularly commitment.
Isn't it amazing if you are an athlete, and you know you clearly were in this context, how much that informs what we gain in that arena, in that athletic arena, how much it informs our lives, and for me also my parenting.
Yeah, our children hold a mirror to us. I'm a father as well, and yeah, it's really the ultimate, that they hold such a mirror to us, and they're watching our every move, and yeah, the growth that's come through parenting as I'm
How old are your
as
How old are your kids?
my son's 10.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
you're in the thick of it, my
Yours?
friend. I have a 21-year-old and a 24-year-old.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah. But I remember 10 being difficult.
Yeah, well, they start high school younger here in Germany. So he's just started high school, and it's been pretty confronting actually, because he's still he's still a kid. Like he still wants to play, to play and stuff. But he's like thrown into like the high school. Yeah, it poses a lot of issues about the educational system and how to encourage individually with kids. How to encourage the
Individuality.
individuality.
Yes, I get it.
uh, and I've had my tussles with the systems around that, but I'm just confident in my own parenting, to expose him to as many valuable lessons as I can.
I just spoke to a group of parents with kids in high school here in Los Angeles. And the framework that I mapped out for them is this triangle where there's three things that matter if you want your kids to become successful young adults. And all three really need to be focused on in this period of time. Once your kids go through high school, that window closes for you as a parent. And this was actually something new to the parents, because a lot of parents think that they have forever to parent and influence their kids, and they don't. I know this to be true because, again, so much of my work now is with young adults. And parents realize very quickly that once their kids graduate from high school, they can't track them anymore. They can try, but they can't, they really don't have any influence. And they do track kids in college. Oh, my kid is here, his blood sugar is down. He's not asleep yet. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You can't act on it. That time is closed. You can talk about it, but they don't hear you anymore. But what you can do, what you must focus on when they are younger and through high school, one is resources, which is really, are you giving them everything they need? And basically, that's more like food and medical attention and a roof over their head. Here, where I live, it's like they are so over-resourced, actually. So resources is not an issue for most of us. The second thing is skills. That is where the parents are kind of sitting back and letting the school do it, and the schools aren't doing it. The schools are not teaching our kids life skills. We need to come in and do that by creating experiences for them, unique to them, and each child is different, by the way, unique to what skill that child needs to up level. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. It sounds like you understand the limitations of the academic system where you are, and you're coming in and creating opportunities for your child to grow and expand and develop skills while you can, before he goes out fully into the world. And then the third thing, just to finish this, is priorities. Our kids go out into the world not understanding what their priorities should be. And then they're lost and they don't take action. And we say, oh, my kid has a problem with commitment, or my kid procrastinates, or, he doesn't want to talk to anyone. But that's because we weren't clear before they left home about the values that we hold dear in this family unit, which, if we are, most of the time they adopt it and they take it out into the world. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, thank you for reframing that time, actually, because I realized in that first block of 10 years, I realized just how fast that went. And when we were kids and at school, that time felt like an eternity.
Right.
But this block of time with my son has just gone like that. And actually, you have reframed that in that, by the time that end run of high school, there is perhaps not as much influence. So it is really crucial. And I am trying to fill that toolbox, as you say, or just show him the tools, introduce him into the tools, and yeah, I just know personally getting out of high school, as you say, without that perception of the overarching stuff, call it the noble goal type stuff,
Yes,
call
I
it the
love that.
biggest. Yeah, I was only introduced to that recently, the noble goals, and it's something that I really like the concept of having a verb that describes a goal, and then seeing how things that you're attempting to do or are doing sit under that. And I think if kids could have more exposure to that type of stuff as they get older, as you say, they might feel less lost when they come out of the various institutions.
And underlying the noble goals has to be values. What values? And it can't be 10 values. It's got to be 2 to 3 values, no more. That you and your wife or his mother are there. You're making it non-starters in your family, and that has to be communicated over and over and over again. So, like in our family, kindness was a value. So, sure, you can have any goal you want in life, but if it's not, you have to sacrifice kindness in order to get to that goal, then you got to pick a new goal.
It's
Because that's just
simple as that. Yeah.
as simple as that. That's just not going to work here. I mean, my
Yep.
son the other day, he says to me, "Oh, Mom, you traumatized me when you did this thing." And I'm like, "What did I do?" He's like, "When I was 10 years old, I was playing a video game, and in it, like, I killed my sister, and my friend killed his sister. And it was just a game. And you came and you took the video game and you threw it out the window of the 16th floor, and I still haven't forgotten it." And I said, he's like, "You traumatized me." I said, "Look, dude, maybe there was a better way to do it. I admit, like, maybe that was like really harsh what I did, the way I did it. But like, that was a non-starter for me. You playing a game where somebody, like, you're killing someone in your family, like, that is
It's
not
toxic, yeah.
like, it's just not. I had to get rid of it. You had to get the
It's
message, and you got the message. Maybe I should have been a little bit more, gentle about it.
No, it's a non-negotiable. I think that aligning things with those establishing what those morals are, aligning things with that. And again, I just going back to industry stuff. I know whenever I've been in a job that is misaligned with those core values and those morals,
Yes.
it's been really tough for me. Really tough for me, and it has affected well-being. So it's like there's just if I were to stay in that environment, I'd be no good to anybody because my health would suffer. So it's completely counter. But I had to go through that a number of times I had to get on that dance floor so many times and see it replay over and over and over before I was like, I gotta get off and change and realign.
Daniel, we're all like you, but most of us don't make the connection between ill health and our work environment. We don't. So people die not knowing that they could have lived a whole other life. They don't make the connection. I mean, I got to a point, I wish I had a fabulous story of just like, yes, I was very successful in fashion, and then one day I woke up and I said, I think I'll be a professional coach. And, I built this business and became very successful. No, I crashed. I got to a point where, of course, from the outside, it was very shiny. I was the director of client relations for Gucci, for all of their West Coast. I lived this like life where I was traveling and going into stores and teaching teams how to up-level their service. And, I was dressed in Gucci head to toe, and it was a very glamorous life from the outside, but from the inside, I literally got to a point where I couldn't, and I used to be a runner. Forget about running. I couldn't even walk anymore. And at some point, I couldn't get up anymore from a chair. All movement was, and that's the point where if you don't make the connection, and I didn't for a long time, if you don't make the connection between these two things, then you believe that there's just something wrong with you, and you go from doctor to doctor, and then you get into this world that so many people are in where they don't know what's wrong with them. I can't move, my muscles hurt, everything hurts, I can't eat, I have autoimmune, I have this, I have that. And no matter what thread they pull on, it opens another door. And, no matter what doctor you go to, the doctor, gives you a diagnosis from their specialty. So you made that connection. I made that connection. But we are all at danger of being physically harmed and consistently losing our vigor and vitality and good health when we continue to be in situations that are toxic, work, relationships, and so on.
And I think the more that world is established, like you're saying in the fashion world, the more established it is and the more momentum it's built, the more courage it takes to step out of that. So it sounds like you had to have an enormous amount of courage too, to, the bigger life that world has, the harder it is to turn it all on its head for your own well-being.
I wish I had. The truth is, it got to a point where I just couldn't. I was of no use, and I don't know what other, industries are like, but in fashion, are you kidding me? If you're not bringing it all, you're out.
It was the same for me in architecture, actually. I was no use by the end. I was just it was all so mismatched, and I just couldn't hide my disgust at some of the corporate just some of the toxic. I stepped into architecture because I believed it was a creative industry, which it is. There's amazing architects doing amazing stuff, but a large portion of what I was doing at different times was very toxic to the environment, and I was just almost sick in some of these meetings, and I was like, I just can't serve this anymore,
Yeah. So both you and I, we kind of hit rock bottom, and for me, I call it my years of wandering in the desert. There were a few years there where I was just like, am I ever going to make money again? Am I ever going to be able to work again? How will I support my family? And one day I was, and my kids, he was in high school in cross country, and I don't know if you know what those races are like. You just, as a parent, you go and you stand there, and then they you see them for 1 second, and then they're gone, and you wave at them, and they look at you don't embarrass me, and I'm just like, why am I here? So I one of those races, and then afterwards I took my son out to lunch, and he said, Mom, where were you? I didn't see you anywhere. I said, I was talking to Joel's mom, because you don't care if I'm around, but she was really being helped by what I had to offer. And he goes, Mom, you're always doing that. I said, I know, I wish I could make a living from it. And this 11-year-old looked at me and he said, you can. I said, how? He said, Mom, you can become a coach. I really, to this day, think somebody else, a higher force, was speaking through him, because how would he even know what a coach is? This was a decade ago. Coaching still wasn't even a thing. But I was like, I went home and I Googled how to become a coach.
It's amazing. It's amazing that it came through him like a conduit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Man, yeah, sometimes these things, they come to us in different, the message is delivered in different ways.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of this chapter.
Awesome. Well, on the show, I like to offer listeners some kind of challenge or suggestion. I've done a lot of them myself. They're not grandiose things, you know. That's kind of been the theme of this show, is
Yes.
these little habitual changes that we can make in our daily lives that potentially have a big impact. Is there anything, given your journey and your expertise, that you would suggest for the
Yes.
listeners?
I have, I mean, there's so many I can offer, but the one I'm going to pick for today has to do with output in the evening. So it's a practice, and so much has been said about morning practice, and everybody should have a morning practice, and it's true, and I do. But the evening, what we do, the 5-10 minutes before we go to sleep, is hugely important. It's what goes into our head and goes into our system, and then through the night gets processed. And I think that people really underestimate that. Not only they underestimate that, they actually, what do most of us do, 10 minutes before we go to bed? We're on social media, we're scrolling, we're consuming. Bullshit is basically what we consume, and then we go to sleep, right? So instead of consuming, which we all do all day long, most of us, especially those of us who are lifelong learners, and I'm sure many in your audience, make a conscious decision that for the 10 minutes before you go to bed, you're going to output instead of input. Have a notebook next to your bed where you can write very simply 3 things you're grateful for, 3 amazing things that happened that day, 3 wins. You choose. But the idea is to put out of your head rather than put in your head and in your body before you go to bed. And whether your output creates gratitude, or I have a future self notebook where I ask myself, how was I different today than yesterday? Because I'm always working to give myself the message that I'm changing. I'm changing all the time. And what this helps me do is sort of build my day from my future self rather than from my past. Oh, this is what I did yesterday, so it's always going to be like that. No. I want to bring to my own attention what I did differently today. And over time, it gives your body the message that you are growing, expanding, changing all the time.
I love it. Yeah, just so many of us are just being fed with a million things right before we sleep, and it's just habitual. And yeah, so to do what you're saying is, I'm going to give it a crack tonight.
Do it, but
And
but do it for a month. Do it for a month. So you don't have to do it for a year, but really say to yourself, I'm going to do this for 1 month. And you're an athlete, you can do it for 1 month, and just see if there's a change. Don't trust me, test it. And have some data after 30 days, and then see where you want to take it from there.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome challenge. Where can people find you and your work?
I'm easy to find on my website. So it's my full name, carolynmahboubi.com. And I think where people will find a lot of value is in the journal. The journal section has all the blogs. And whatever you're interested in that has to do with life coaching, including people who want to become coaches, I write a lot about that. And my journey around that. So, and then ideal is if you sign up for the newsletter, you get the blog on a weekly basis on Thursdays in your email.
Awesome. Is there anything we haven't kind of covered? I love the way we've taken things. Like I have questions and I end up just throwing them out because
we move on to something else.
Well, they could be a bit. I think they could be a bit rigid. I'm actually just trying to follow that instinct that we talked about, and just go with it, which we've done. So that's really cool. But is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience before I let you go?
I think I'm good. I want to thank you. First of all, I knew that your style, you preferred a conversational style. So, that's why I kind of just came forward with whatever was in the moment. But I want to thank you for being such a great partner in this conversation and, opening up yourself as well. That makes it much more fun and interesting for me.